in the day, in many African communities, even up to recent times, having a child out of wedlock is considered a taboo. People do not like to associate with anyone who has a child out of wedlock, including family, close friends, and community members. Nengi's family is one such family. There lived a young girl named Negi in a community called Tembe. Nengi is a beautiful black tall girl with long hair, which she often made into cornrows. Her beauty was so pronounced that each time Nengi passed, people would stop and stare at her. Not only was Nengi beautiful, she was well-mannered. Nengi did well in school also. She was the best female student during her high school days at Tembe Community Girls School. Her family were very proud of her. After her high school, Nengi planned to go to the university where she would study law. Nengi did well as expected in her examination. She gained admission to study her dream course, law. While Nengi was in her first year in the university, she got entangled with a young handsome man, Nebo, who at the time was also an undergraduate in his third year as a computer science student. Nebo and Nengi became fond of each other. After a brief relationship, Nengi discovers she's pregnant. Nengi was naive. She had missed her period and was pregnant. She was 2 months gone before she found out. Nebo had gone to a different city for a 6 months IT program. And so Nengi was devastated. She didn't know what to do. She didn't know who to talk to. She was contemplating terminating the pregnancy or keeping it. But then, she had already developed love for her unborn child. And so she vowed to keep the pregnancy. Yet she couldn't confide in anyone. But she had to open up to someone at least. So she opened up to her mother, Mrs. Rebecca. She picked up her phone and called Mrs. Rebecca on the phone. Mrs. Rebecca, a well-known teacher in the community school, popularly known for her sermons on chastity and discipline among young adults. She holds her daughter Nengi in high esteem. And so when she got the news, Mrs. Rebecca broke down in tears. She wanted her daughter to become a lawyer. She spoke highly of her always. So she felt she had failed in raising her first girl child. Same with her father, Mr. Abel. Her father also felt she had ruined the family name and her future. Nengi has brought shame to the family, Mr. Abel said. Nengi's parents severed every financial obligation towards her, although this was against her mother's wish. But her father insisted on teaching Nengi a life lesson. They stopped taking care of Nengi's needs. They even called Nebo's parents to take up the responsibility since their daughter was carrying their grandchild. When Nengi told Nebo about the pregnancy, he was confused as to what to do. He was devastated. Although he summoned the courage to own the pregnancy and promised to be a responsible father to their child, he was scared of his future. Nebo just turned 21, a young man with promising future. Nebo had so much confidence in his parents to help him with the financial burden. But unfortunately for him, his parents decided otherwise. He is man enough, his father said. He should fend for himself and his new family. We have his younger siblings to cater for. And so Nengi and Nebo were left with no other choice than to start catering for themselves. So they began to cohabit. As young adults, they had very little experience on how to manage their new home, but they decided to support each other. When Nengi was 5 months gone, Life became even more difficult. Now, the pregnancy has become obvious. Nengi could no longer balance school with her new condition. She was too shy to attend classes, although there were other pregnant women in the university, but they were married, and it was obvious Nengi wasn't married. So she began to withdraw from her classmates and friends. Nebo could do very little with his tutorial classes. At this point, someone had to make a sacrifice. Nengi had just started her second year as a law student, and Nebo was in his finals. Nengi had to drop out for Nebo to graduate. Nengi decided to support Nebo by starting a little kiosk in the neighborhood. So while Nengi stayed back, managing her small business, Nebo was schooling and also helping with his tutorial classes. Not long after, Nengi put to bed a bouncing baby boy, and they named him Dreams. This was to help them never to forget their dreams, especially Nengi, who sacrificed her dream of being a lawyer. After Nebo's graduation, he left for a lorry for his NYC, a compulsory one-year service program for graduates. Nengi was left alone with Dreams, their son. But before Nebo left, Nengi had planned to support Nebo with some cash she had saved from her little business. Instead, Nebo insisted she should keep the money because she would need it more. Nengi reluctantly adhered to his decision. Meanwhile, Nebo had dropped a written note for Nengi. It read, "Dear Nengi, thank you for standing by me all these times. I know this wasn't the plan, but I have to pursue my dreams. I want a better life for myself. I am too young for the responsibility before me. Please, find a way to forgive me. I hope you understand. Take care of Dreams. I need to go after my dreams. Don't worry about me. I will never come back." After Nengi read this, she was shattered. She cried terribly. She was heartbroken. She didn't know who to talk to. She had no support system. But she consoled herself. She told herself, "I have to be strong for my son, Dreams. I have to be strong for myself. I need to be strong for us." And so Nengi did all forms of menial jobs to put food on the table for herself and her son. From washing people's clothes, working on construction sites, working on people's farmland, to even hawking food on the streets. This went on for years, as weeks ran into months and months ran into years. Nengi had acquired skills over the years and sometimes supervises projects at the construction sites. She has a reputable character, so it was easy for her boss to trust her with some responsibilities. One day, Nengi was on duty at one of the construction sites, where she was acting as a supervisor. There she met a young man, who happens to be the owner of the project, Mr. Desmond, a well-accomplished man in his late 30s, single. He met Nengi at his site. Desmond grew interest in Nengi. Meanwhile, Nengi, having had a painful experience with Nebo, tried to stay away from Desmond. She made it difficult to have a discussion that wasn't work-related, but Desmond was determined. He persisted until Nengi began to loosen up, and so she shared her life experiences with Desmond. Nengi never hid the fact that she was a single mother. She told anyone who cared to listen about her lovely son, James. Desmond appreciated her for being brave and for fighting for herself and her son's dreams. Dreams, who has now finished his primary education, was now in secondary school. He has grown into a young cute boy, a young teenager with unmatched energy. Desmond and Nengi became fond of each other, and their feelings for each other became mutual. This led to their relationship. After months of dating, Desmond insisted that Nengi would fulfill her dreams of becoming a lawyer. Nengi still had interest in studying law. And so Nengi went back to school with the support of Desmond, who got her comfortable accommodation and every assistance she needed while her son went to a boarding school to continue his secondary education. A few years later, Nengi graduated as a lawyer and went further to a law school where she did excellently well and became a lawyer, her dream profession. Nengi, even though was hurt by her parents' decision, still found ways to reconnect with her family. Upon her graduation, Desmond, through his friends, helped Nengi secure a job role in his friend's law firm in Abuja, where Nengi could work and gain real-world experience. Desmond had made his intention of spending his entire life with Nengi. Nengi was happy to spend the rest of her life with a man who meant the entire world to her and who has given her another chance in life. While Nengi was working at Alice and Alice Chambers, the firm Desmond helped her get, Nengi from time to time was assigned on duties, being a recent graduate. Alice and Alice had a case to handle at one point, which was about a client who was based abroad but had done a wrong investment deal with a fraudulent company. The client was seeking justice to at least recover 50% of his $50,000 investment deal. Alice and Alice Chambers came highly recommended to the client as they have had success in similar cases in the past. The client had earlier returned from the US to be present while the case was ongoing to get to the root of the matter. It was before one of those court hearing days the client was at Alice and Alice Chambers. Nengi was unavoidably absent. When the need came up to get some clarity from the client, Nengi was assigned to speak with the client briefly over the phone. Lo and behold, the client in question is Nebo, the very Nebo that abandoned his young family. Nebo, after NYSC, secured a fully funded scholarship in the USA to study his master's in software engineering, and upon his graduation, he got a job in one of the leading tech companies. Nebo had become a successful young man, just as he dreamt of. Nebo and Nengi spoke a few times on the phone, but the discussions were very formal, and none of them knew who the other person was. Nengi never bothered to see the full name of the client, as her boss was on the job. Over 10 years had passed, and a lot had happened. Out of curiosity, Nebo insisted on seeing Nengi. She must be an intelligent and ambitious young lady to be working in such a reputable firm in Abuja, he said to himself. Nebo, who had never had a healthy relationship after Nengi, was trying every means possible to get into a new relationship. He thought to himself, I'm a successful young man with a job and everything I ever dreamed of. I am every woman's dream, so I need a woman, a classy one. Nebo never made efforts to look for dreams, his son, or even Nengi. He just moved on. Meanwhile, after all Nengi had gone through, she vowed to change her name when she met Desmond. She believed she was favored to have met Desmond, so everyone in Nengi's office called her Favor, including the clients, Nebo. Only Desmond and Marian, Nengi's long old friend, call her by the name Nengi. Nebo, who desperately wanted to be in a new relationship, wanted to meet Favor as he was already developing feelings for her. I casually said this to her and followed up with messages. Neighbor liked Favor, but he couldn't just place the reason why. Could it be her voice? He said to himself. Negi, on the other hand, had told Desmond of a certain client who had been trying to meet her in person. So on this fateful morning, Desmond had dropped Negi at her workplace after dropping Dreams off at his school. Negi, who is now known as Favor, was bubbling on this Monday morning, going through her computer and taking all her to-dos, and suddenly her phone rang. Good morning, Favor. How are you doing today? Fine, thank you. Are you in the office? I would like to stop by and say hi. Yes, sir. That's okay, Nengi responded. About 20 minutes later, a young man dressed in a white shirt and black trousers walks in. He walked into Nengi's office. It was at the point when Nengi looked up to welcome the supposed client that she realized who he is. And then Nengi screamed, Nebo, you! Nebo, how did you find me? How did you get here? How did you know I work here? Get out! I don't ever want to see you. I don't want to have anything to do with you. You're a selfish man. You're a wicked man. I don't ever want to see you in my life. At the same time, Nengi was confused as at what was happening. Who told him I work here? How did he find out? Nebo was dumbfounded. He was literally embarrassed. He was confused also. I mean, I knew I would see her someday, but not in a place like this, he thought to himself. But he shamelessly fell on his knees. Nengi politely walked him out of her office to avoid turning the office environment into a noisy place, and she immediately picked her phone, called Desmond and told him all that had happened. Desmond found his way to her office and took her out of the office environment. Neighbor, on the other hand, having seen that Negi has become a successful young woman, started looking for ways to have a conversation with Negi. He started making efforts to get Negi back into his life. Negi blocked every avenue that would lead to a communication between their two. Even went as far as resigning from her job in Alice and Alice Chambers. Now, do you think Nebo was selfish? Do you think he deserves a second chance? Do you think his actions were intentional? Do you think he was just being a man? Do you think Nengi was being too harsh? Please let's know what you are in the comment section. And for more interesting African folk tales and stories like this, do well to like, comment and subscribe to African Folktales by Pearl. See you in our next video. Bye.